What's funny about this is this study was looking at flax polysaccharides, so it wasn't even looking at the whole spectrum flax. The cool thing is if you were to actually consume full spectrum flax, you're going to get the omega-3s, the alpha-linoleic acid, which has an impact on appetite as well, but we're not even focusing on that. This was like pure isolated flax polysaccharide, showing that there's a unique effect there. Now, we have to understand quickly before I get into the nuance of flax seeds how leptin works. Like leptin is secreted by fat tissue on our body. So the more fat that we have, the more leptin we produce. And the idea behind leptin is supposed to be like a self-governing system where it tells our brain we have enough fat on hand, so we don't need to eat more. Hey, you're good, you got enough fat, start burning what you got. But the problem is as you eat more and as you gain more weight, you become leptin resistant, where your cells and your brain does not listen to the leptin anymore. But leptin doesn't just influence appetite, it also influences fat oxidation at the localized level too, meaning high circulating leptin without actually being able to receive the signal from it will certainly make you want to eat more. But it's a double whammy effect because high circulating leptin is also going to impede fat oxidation at the actual adipose and like cell level. So you're eating more and not oxidizing or burning fat well. That's a huge problem. So where does flax come in? Well, with this, when they looked at the flax polysaccharides, they found there was a reduction in body fat when flax polysaccharides were consumed, but also a specific reduction in abdominal fat, which is really fascinating. So I'm going to read an excerpt from the researchers in this study specifically. The effect was achieved by removing leptin resistance, possibly by inhibiting inflammation and recovering satiety through significant downregulation of neuropeptide Y and upregulation of GLP-1. Whoa. We're finding out that the reason people lost fat, specifically abdominal fat, when consuming flax was because of two things. Well, three things. One, it reduced inflammation. Two, it decreased neuropeptide Y, one of the strongest hunger drive systems in our brain, and a subsequent decrease in, of course, or increase in GLP-1, which we know the mechanism of. So we have now reduced inflammation, which allows for leptin to be received, right? Reducing that inflammation improves leptin resistance. We've reduced the brain neuropeptide Y hunger drive, and we've increased the systemic sort of gustatory gut incretin of GLP-1. So a double whammy at the very least, possibly a triple whammy if you count the inflammation as a third aspect to it. So this has a huge impact on leptin overall. The more that we can reduce inflammation, the more that leptin can start to regain its signal, and we can actually have true, authentic governing of our appetite, the way that we're meant to be when it's not discombobulated and disrupted by all the other crud we're bringing into our body. So you're going to have an increase in GLP-1 the way that you should when you eat. That's exactly what we're all after. I think any of us out there would say, yeah, I would rather just my body do what it's supposed to do rather than having to Mickey Mouse things together with broken metabolisms like 94 to 96% of us have to deal with, because that's the actual statistic on people that have metabolic issues or are not optimized or at least functioning optimally as far as their metabolism is concerned. So we'll come back to how to use that in just a second. Like I would recommend doing certain things with flax. I'll talk about that in a second. I want to talk about the estrogen thing because there's a study published in Frontiers in Nutrition, and it helped explain it in a way that really resonated with me. There is a lignin called SDG that is in flax, and it gets converted in our gut, in a healthy gut, to what is called enterolactone. Now, enterolactone is a phytoestrogen, but what happens is this phytoestrogen binds to an estrogen receptor, and it actually blocks actual estrogen from binding to that receptor. So this study was actually done in oncology research, and it was looking at like those situations and found that when flax was used, it actually bound to an estrogen receptor, thereby lowering estrogen level for a more preferred result. I'm careful with the words that I say because YouTube will sometimes ding a video if you talk about certain words. So hopefully you're getting the gist of what I'm talking about here. The bottom line is when flax was consumed, it actually lowered estrogen levels because the estrogen was not able to bind into the receptor. So imagine having like a fake boat docked at the dock so that the real boat can't come in. That's essentially what was happening. Now let's talk about how to use flax. Okay, one of the things that I would do, I would almost always have flax with protein. Okay, since flax is stimulating this overall like leptin signaling and potential neuropeptide Y and GLP-1, if you consume it with protein, you're going to double whammy this. So I usually do flax meal. You take flax seeds and you grind it fresh because the oils can go rancid pretty quick. So you don't want to grind it and then leave it sitting out. So freshly grind it, mix it into yogurt, like Greek yogurt, get the protein content up high. You're getting the fiber, you're getting the lignans, you're getting all this stuff along with the protein and of course the probiotics in yogurt or cottage cheese. You barely notice the difference in the taste. It works perfectly. I do not recommend having it, with a bunch of high carb stuff. You're just kind of canceling it out a little bit unless you want to use the flax to negate some of the glycemic response that you get from those carbs. So keeping it pretty low carb. Another thing that you can do is quite literally mixing it with cottage cheese or even mixing it in a whey protein shake and just pounding it and shooting it really quick. Those are really powerful ways. Now, anytime that you want to add kind of an extra boost to it, you can add allulose. Allulose is a type of sugar that doesn't have a really glycemic index or a glycemic effect. And it's one of the most potent stimulators of GLP-1. So like I use allulose in all kinds of things. I usually use protein powders that are sweetened with allulose, or I'll add it into my Greek yogurt to sweeten my Greek yogurt along with a little bit of flax. And it ends up making like a nice little Ozempic-like, not really, but Ozempic-like effect sort of food. Right? So now we're finding this out. It seems like flax is a good thing to add in either way from a fiber perspective and whatnot, because there was also a study that was 11 different studies. It was a meta-analysis that found that soluble fiber, which flax is definitely a soluble fiber, was one of the strongest correlators when it came down to leptin levels. So essentially, the higher the fiber intake, the better the leptin resistance, right? So we have all kinds of reasons to be consuming flax, independent of the polysaccharide potential direct effect. There's also the fiber effect as well. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel. See you tomorrow.